children are dying. Like, bro, what? Hey, man, I don't know, bro. That's what people want to hear in today's music, bro. I don't know. But yo, let's try something new that we never reacted before. You know, I like animals. You like animal. You yourself are an animal. Depending on what, you know what I'm saying, what color you are. If you're black, I don't even got to say it. Monkey. Yo, this is the this is the Crustacean, right? Tier list. Gang can't read. Nigga, I can't.
Crustaceans are some of the most popular builds in the entire game.
Okay.
In fact, they're so popular that it's become sort of a meme that every player will eventually drop their current character and switch to being a crab main.
Okay.
But just how competitively viable are crustaceans really? Which unique abilities does the Crustacean class make use of that enabled them to become such a resilient force across so many of the game's expansions?
Bro, being a bald eagle getting your ass whooped by a crab is insane.
And balance patches. And are they actually an optimal build choice in the current meta? Or are they just an easy-to-pilot, low-skill floor character? We'll discuss all this and more as we rank the most notable builds on the Crustacean tier list.
Insane.
This video was sponsored by GiveWell. Before we get into the tier list, let's first discuss the Crustacean faction's general game
Boy, I was about to skip dialogue, I'm not gonna lie.
Strategy, and the key abilities they use to accomplish it. Crustaceans
is the video not loud enough?
Part of the larger faction of arthropods, and so crustaceans inherit all of the main perks of the arthropod class.
Okay.
The most important one, of course, is their exoskeletal armor, which provides a huge defense boost. Given that most crustaceans have to contend with some of the most dangerous builds in the game, this extra protection is crucial to their viability. Their carapace, which is the thickest, sturdiest, and most important link in their armor, can block attacks from seabird beaks, fish jaws, and many of the other threats common in aquatic environments. It does, however, have the same weakness as all exoskeleton-type builds, which is that their defense stat drops drastically for a short time when leveling up. If their armor ever does fail them, this doesn't immediately mean game over.
Niggas climbing out the bag?
Ability to regenerate HP after taking damage, even being able to regrow entire limbs. So even something as devastating as losing a claw or a leg isn't something crustaceans can't recover from, and in fact can be the optimal play to distract an opponent and escape a fight. This ability makes crustaceans a very beginner-friendly build, as you can make a lot of mistakes and still progress through your playthrough relatively unhindered. Crustaceans also have uniquely specialized limbs that come to 2 points rather than 1. This makes it super straightforward to spec them into various different specialized opposable claws, which can be optimized for slicing, crushing, piercing, or grappling. I've said in the past that I think crustaceans are a broadly mid-tier class.
And I think what's your favorite crab? What's your favorite crab to eat? Because, yo, crabs be delicious. Damn, that crab is big as hell. But what's your favorite crab to eat? I ain't gonna lie. A lot of people say snow crabs. But like, I wish a damn crab would run up on me, throw his ass in a pot, fucking boil his ass, throw some Old Bay seasoning, some vinegar, would be my dinner. I ain't gonna lie. Yo, crab do sound good right now. I ain't gonna lie. Crab do sound good.
Holds up. Crustaceans have a lot of interesting tools at their disposal, but due to their middle-of-the-road stat spread, they are constantly fighting an uphill battle against the many high-tier threats they need to contend with, and have to play things perfectly to not get run over in these matchups. So, let's see how the individual crustacean builds fare and get into the tier list.
Crabs are F. On my tier list, crabs are
F tier, we have the barnacle. The barnacle is a crustacean build with an almost completely AFK strategy. As a barnacle larva, you find a spot and then attach to it and filter feed for the rest of your playthrough. Now, I'm not dunking on players who enjoy idle games. I'm a fan myself. However, this strategy does have some major flaws. Despite the fact that barnacles have the highest defense stat of any crustacean, the survivability of a barnacle is entirely contingent on their choice of parking space. Barnacles can attach to just about any surface, from ship hulls to cement walls, to whales and even other crustaceans. Choosing a spot on a non-living surface leaves the barnacle vulnerable to predators. As high as their defense stat may be, there are plenty of builds that are willing to invest in anti-shell defense abilities, like the acidic.
Now I see what you mean. Why is it coming out like that, bro? Like,
there are plenty of builds that are willing to invest in anti-shell defensive abilities, like the acidic attacks of the starfish or the drilling attacks of the whelk snail, neither of which are uncommon on the reefs and coastlines that barnacles call home. But if they opt for a living host, which is easier said than done by the way, then their survivability is completely tied to the survival of their host, a tenuous gambit in a metagame as hostile as the ocean server.
okay.
Whales are a pretty safe choice, but opportunities to secure real estate on a whale are few and far between. Much more likely you'll need to settle for property on the shell of another crustacean, which, as we'll see later on this list, is quite a gamble. Personally, I'd say if you want to play a mostly AFK marine list, you'll need to set opportunities to secure real estate on a whale are few and far between. Much more likely you'll...
You talking about this? But dude, actually, like, imagine, like, go back to what? That shark. What shark?
Tenuous gambit in a metagame as hostile as the ocean server. Whales are a pretty safe choice, but opportunities to secure real estate on a whale...
What shark? Oh no, that's that black education.
Much more likely you'll need to settle for property on the shell of another crustacean,
bro.
Which, as we'll see later on this list,
nigga,
is quite a
whale? You don't know what a whale is? A humpback whale?
A mostly AFK marine build, opt for the scallop, as you'll still get to chill and filter feed most of the time, but can still escape if need be. Also in F tier, we have the shrimp. Now, shrimp are a super diverse group with a ton of interesting strategies. But in general, shrimp make very poor use of the crustacean build's unique abilities.
Bro.
Broadly speaking, shrimp have weak legs, no eye stalks, and small claws. No eye stalks might seem trivial, but eye stalks are actually a pretty useful ability, allowing a player to take cover in the sand or under the seabed, while still remaining vigilant.
They taste good,
Shrimp rely heavily on that same strategy, but because they cannot surveil their surroundings while hiding,
tastes like crawfish.
A clever predator can easily just wait.
Nah, I don't know what type of shrimp you be eating, boy. I ain't gonna lie, bro. Yo, shrimp is so disgusting, bro. Oh my gosh. Even when I had coconut shrimp, nigga, it's like every time I eat shrimp, I feel like I'm about to throw up.
Until they resurface and pick them
Even
off.
if I smell shrimp,
attacking
I feel like
a
I'm
shrimp
about to
is
throw up.
also a lot less risky than attacking most crustaceans, as their damage-dealing abilities are far worse than the rest of the faction. The shrimp's scaled-down appendages are a trade-off meant to buff its mobility. Shrimps have spec'd into shorter, flatter legs that increase their aquatic movement speed in a way somewhat reminiscent of a fish's pelvic fins. This is a neat idea that means shrimp can freely swim rather than walking along the ocean floor. But in practice, this kind of just meant that shrimp ended up as the seahorses of the crustacean faction.
I ain't lying.
A tankier,
I feel like the most useless animal you can be is a seahorse. I'm sorry, bro. If you don't attach yourself to something, you float. Like, can't even swim, bro. You get taken away by the current. And if you a male seahorse, you have to take care of all the babies. It's like, I'm not gonna lie, bro. Seahorses are so useless.
Slower moving swimmer that can't adequately defend itself or evade attacks, so it gets bullied by every other nearby player.
Nigga, shrimp gets
do
bullied
have
by
one
seahorses?
escape ability, in that they can very quickly dash backwards. But this is of course very predictable and exploitable by experienced players. Now, it's important to note that while they may not have the best stats, crafty shrimp mains have been able to reach some level of viability in the meta, either by speccing into debuff cleansing abilities and playing as a predator support class, or by abusing a quirk of the game engine which allows them to fire off powerful short-range sonic projectiles called cavitation bubbles that can stun other players. These are both respectable strategies that merit higher tier placement, but as a whole, shrimp are stuck in the bottom tier.
Thank you.
What is this? In D tier, we've got the isopod.
Oh, roly-polies!
Other than the barnacle, which...
Why don't y'all just call them roly-polies?
Literally cannot move. The isopod...
Bro, you don't know what a roly-poly is?
Has the highest base defense stat of any crustacean on this list. Its shell is perfect for deflecting attacks, and when they curl into a ball like an armadillo, there are very few predators that can threaten them unless they're several orders of magnitude larger.
You can get away from spiders?
Outright. However, the isopod has essentially no damage-dealing abilities whatsoever. It has no attacks, no poison, nothing to threaten aggressive players with.
You can't get away
so
from
against the persistent attacker, it will essentially always lose. Isopods are a diverse and widely distributed group, with both terrestrial and aquatic variants. The terrestrial variants,
there's
known
huge
as woodlice,
ones?
pillbugs, and roly-polies, function very similarly to miniature cockroaches, using their flat shape to wedge themselves into hard-to-reach positions, and only leaving the safety of these places in order to scavenge for loot.
I really
The
dislike
larger
cockroaches,
aquatic
bro.
variants of the isopod are usually similar in their strategy, but can also opt for a parasitic playstyle, where they actually fuse with a fish player, destroying and replacing the fish's tongue. This parasitic strategy is great for farming XP and is super AFK, but does come with pretty much all the same risks I mentioned about the barnacle. If the fish gets attacked and defeated, the isopod usually goes down with the ship. Technically, if given the chance, they could detach and escape, but in the marine meta, chances like that
Oh my gosh, dude. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, bro. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, bro. That shit feel like it crawled on me, bro. Oh my gosh. Yo, that dead felt like it crawled on me.
are quite rare, and without a host, they're likely to just get picked off anyway. Not the worst crustacean, but it's leaving a lot on the table, not making use of the crustacean's highly customizable forelimbs. Next in D tier, we have the crayfish, also known as the crawdad. This is a smaller variant of the lobster
See, now we're
subclass.
talking, bro. You know what I'm saying? If you familiar with the Louisiana or, you know what I'm saying? Get you little crawfish, you know what I'm saying? Get you little crawfish, potatoes, sausage. Word, boy.
Which mainly sticks to freshwater servers. This means that
Crawfish over
unlike the
shrimp?
lobster,
Exactly,
which
bro.
needs to be prepared to contend with the likes of sharks, octopus, eels, and the multitude of dangerous threats you'd find in the ocean servers, the worst things a crayfish might run into would probably be something
Now,
like
look,
a
you want
turtle or
seafood boil?
largemouth bass.
I could take some
and
right
yet,
now,
even
dead
in this
ass.
much less punishing environment, crayfish still underperform. They have solid matchups against frogs, which is true of essentially every other build in existence as well, and they can sometimes hold their own against freshwater fish due to their armor, but pretty much anything beyond that and they begin to struggle. They don't have claws that are anywhere near as powerful as some of the other crustaceans on this list, and so when confronted with an adversary, they often lose if they can't escape. Their only real advantage is that their smaller size opens up a lot of additional options to where they can run for cover and hide, as they can fit into very small openings between rocks and debris on a riverbed. However, because they often aggregate so close to the shoreline, they're vulnerable to being picked off by birds, whose pinpoint precision strikes can hit them even in partial cover. Without proper offensive capabilities, they'll always find...
You talking about on Fortnite? Most pointless animal is an ant? Simply? No, because if you really think about it, right? If you really think about it, ants can lift like, I don't know how much time their weight is, but ants can lift like, you know what I'm saying? And if you compare the ant or like put an ant as like human size, bro, that's like you lifting a car, bro. Like you lifting an SUV. Like, nigga, ants are powerful. I'm not gonna lie. Especially gang attacks on ants, nigga, they powerful.
themselves outclassed
Them
by
niggas
their
are
more
strong.
powerful relative.
They bites
A
hurt
build
too,
which
I'm
I
not
think
gonna
we've
cap.
name dropped enough times already to just go ahead and move on to. First in C tier, we have the lobster.
Okay.
Lobsters are a solid marine tier build with lots of strengths, the most obvious of which is their incredibly large and powerful claws,
Lobster is
which grant
B?
the lobster one of the highest grip strengths in the entire game, able to easily
Nigga,
crush
crush
the
the
defenses
ice?
of just about any other player, and inflict devastating damage in the process. This is excellent for defense, and also for taking control of an objective or point of interest on the seafloor.
Nah, that-
Similar to shrimp, lobsters also have fairly decent mobility, although the only direction they can move quickly is directly backwards. This is all quite solid, however, the lobster does have its own share of weaknesses in addition to the
that nigga's
standard
dead.
crustacean weaknesses. This backward mobility is fairly limiting, and means that attacking a lobster from behind often leaves them with very little counterplay options, as their claws cannot reach backwards, and if they try to use their burst mobility
Dang!
option, their only choice will be to
Dang, nah, that's insane, bro. I'm not gonna lie, bro. The fish literally took the lobster's leg and started eating it in front of him, bro. Ah, heck no, bro.
move directly
Started
towards
eating that shit in
unless
front
they
of him.
slowly reposition themselves so that their back faces away from the threat. Now, this is in contrast to the next build on our list, which I think is a bit more versatile in its mobility. Next in C tier, we finally arrive at the crab build. The poster child for the crustacean class, and one of the most reliable and consistent mid-tiers in the entire game.
Big
Crab
meaty
claws are
claws.
extremely customizable, able to be optimized for whatever best suits the current meta. Some spec into smaller, more precise claws that enable to capture
you got
small
a
prey
link?
more
Alright,
easily.
bet.
Some spec into sharp-edged claws used for
This is
slashing
what a
at
lobster
soft
reminds
body.
me of. Let me see. Dude.
Bad if some people didn't try to play with big.
Big, meaty claws.
Components such as cephalopods. And some opt for pointed claws, perfect for jabbing at pesky fish who can't mind their business. However, the thing that really sets crabs apart from other crustaceans is that they've opted not to spec into the pleon trait. The pleon is the rear abdomen seen on most other crustaceans we've discussed so far.
hell is that
It's the
front?
tail part which allows shrimp and lobsters to
What
use
is
that
this?
special burst mobility option. The trade-off, though, is that the pleon vastly increases their hurt box and functions as a weak point. In order to have the flexibility required to give them that quick movement, it can't be as heavily armored as the rest of them. So,
niggas
while
making them fight?
crayfish, shrimp, and lobsters fold pretty quickly when being attacked from behind, crabs can
Ancient-ass
usually
lobster.
just shrug it off. However, just because they can't dash backward instantly like other crustaceans can, doesn't mean crabs are immobile. Instead, crabs focus on lateral mobility, which turns out is often much more useful for dodging attacks. They
Okay.
can quickly swim or dash to the left or right when needed, and although this might not be as impressive as the lobster's dash, it's still
Bro, imagine getting saved. Yo.
attacks.
Imagine
they can quickly
getting
swim or
saved like
dash to the
that.
left or right when needed. And
Huss,
although
huss.
this might not be as impressive as the lobster's dash, it's still often
Nigga hits a ult on that nigga,
enough
bro.
to save their life anyway. Now, I don't want to give you the impression that I think crabs
Overwatch.
are at all overpowered. They still get bodied plenty, especially by builds that spec into high intelligence.
Sea lions are
But
peak.
the strategy
I love
that
sea
goes
lions.
into optimizing your character's hurt box is not something I think we should overlook, as that actually is a pretty high-level play.
Okay, hermit cat.
First, in B tier, we have the hermit crab. Now, unlike basic crabs, hermit crabs do have a pleon, which they need to protect by scavenging and equipping the shell of a defeated snail player. Technically, this means they aren't true crabs, but what really matters is that this ability is busted. It allows them to
Ugh.
match the defense stat of the barnacle
saggy
while
booty.
retaining their ability to move. And on top of all that, the shells themselves can be augmented with extra perks, courtesy of
Straight out
sea
Little
anemone
Mermaid.
players. And using this combo, hermit crabs can add a toxic sting to their defense too. I won't spend too much time on hermit crabs because I've already got a full video about them. But just
Stung that
understand that they've turned the main weakness of the false crab crustaceans into a major strength. The largest variant of the hermit crab, the coconut crab, can actually reach such giant
Now.
sizes that it surpasses
Hey, I always wanted to see a coconut crab up, cause I be seeing them videos, them coconut crabs be huge. I low-key want to see a coconut crab in person, bro. I dead want to see one.
the need for a protective shell, since there's essentially nothing that's
Like,
able
look
to
how
threaten it.
huge that
And by
is.
dropping the heavy shell, they gain the ability to climb, which can allow them to even turn the tables
Like,
on
look
bird
at a
mains.
coconut crab, bro, about to kill a bird, bro. Like, I want to see one in person and cook it.
which normally have
Tastes
an
good,
impressive
boy.
matchup against crustaceans. Next in B
King
tier,
crabs
we
are
have the
amazing.
copepod. Now, this may seem like a
The hell is
weird
this?
inclusion on this tier list, as I usually don't discuss builds from the microbe weight class, but copepods really do deserve a mention, as they pretty much have the entire zooplankton metagame on lock.
Ooh.
They're one of the most numerous builds in the entire game, and can survive almost anywhere due to a multitude of elemental resistances. They're almost like water bears in a way, except in addition to being quite
And they
durable,
live in the water?
they're also easily the most mobile of all plankton builds. Most other zooplankton only start out in that weight class, using their microscopic size to avoid detection from larger predators. However, as they level up, they increase in size and phase out of the planktonic metagame entirely. However, while in their planktonic stage, they're usually not super competitive, as they've spent all of their evolution points on abilities that
They
they
turn
only
into
unlock
jellyfish?
later on. Copepods, on the other hand, are fully
Not swimming
optimized
again?
to max
That's what I'm saying,
out their
bro. I'm not
viability
swimming again,
against
bro.
other zooplankton, and thus completely dominate the meta in that space.
I'm not going to the ocean.
They're
bro.
not
I'm
completely
going to the
invincible,
ocean,
of
bro. I'm
course,
sorry.
and do often get taken
Like,
down
imagine
by colonial.
accidentally swallowing seawater, bro. And now you got
Microbes,
God.
such as the Portuguese man of war and its
I'm not
relatives.
going to the
but
ocean, bro.
among free-roaming zooplankton, copepods reign pretty much uncontested in
swim in
their
the pool,
niche.
though?
This is especially problematic for human mains, because copepods also ally with Vibrio bacteria to gain the bioluminescence ability, but can also transmit the deadly disease cholera.
Yeah, I'm not going to the ocean.
And
bro.
at the top of
I'm
our
good,
list,
bro.
in A tier, we have the
A
mantis
tier,
shrimp.
okay,
The
talk to
mantis
me.
shrimp is famously one of the most stacked builds the game has ever
Damn,
seen, at least when
spamming
it comes
that
to
nigga.
offense. Instead of the standard crustacean grappling claws, mantis shrimp opt for either raptorial blades or bludgeoning clubs, which they can swing with truly unparalleled strength. These attacks deal devastating damage to any player unlucky enough to be caught on the receiving end. And
Chop
in many
that man's
cases, these
arm
attacks
off.
result in a one-hit kill. Now, the mantis shrimp has a lot of hype and attention surrounding it, with a lot of players decrying the mantis shrimp as OP and broken and so
I
on.
know that
The hype
octopus
around
knocked
its
out,
power
bro.
stat is absolutely deserved. However, we can't forget that this build has a body plan roughly similar to the build that I've rated second lowest on this tier list. Their
Okay.
large, less heavily armored Pleon sticks out quite far from their carapace, which can leave them vulnerable to ambush attacks, just like a regular
Them hoes shoot horseflies hurt. I got hit by one, almost cried. You got hit with a horseshoe? Horseshoe
shrimp
fly?
or lobster, which is not an uncommon occurrence given their lack of camouflage. In addition, their small fins and small legs don't exactly translate to a high mobility stat, which is why, despite the fact that they're packing incredible heat, mantis shrimp usually only hunt the
What just
absolute
happened?
slowest of prey.
Oh, it's right here.
That they're packing incredible
Smack that.
heat. Mantis
Wait, it grabbed him?
translate to a high mobility stat, which is why, despite the fact that they're packing incredible heat, mantis shrimp usually only hunt the absolute slowest of prey.
These, let me see. You got bit by this?
Clams, scallops, and snails. This isn't a bad thing at all. In fact, I think the existence of a proper tank buster build is healthy for the overall metagame. But I do think the power of the mantis shrimp gets exaggerated a lot on forums and discussion boards. Abilities like being able to see color and polarize light in a unique way, or the bonus sonic damage effect their punches create, these are fun little quirks, but I don't think they significantly affect the mantis shrimp's place on the tier list. Give them running legs and the ability to breathe on dry land, and we'd probably need to start discussing a ban though.
Okay.
Overall, I think crustaceans are in a solid spot in the current meta. Not overpowered, but not to be underestimated
tier
either.
list. I ain't lie,
Crustaceans
fair,
and
it's fair.
insects are closely related,
I'll
and are the
say-
most successful
I'll say move shrimp on F.
factions within
Put
the
shrimp
arthropod
F tier.
class. So it's only natural that they'd constantly be compared against each other.
See, I'm
Insects
telling you,
are
bro, them
far more
ants is
dominant
crazy.
on land, whereas crustaceans reign supreme in the water. Though they're similar in many ways, insects have a lot of unique abilities that crustaceans do not, such as venom, eusociality, and most importantly,
Ants be
flight.
jumping.
Meanwhile, most of the important abilities we see in crustaceans are also found in the insect faction. Sturdy defensive
I ain't
armor,
gonna lie, I'll
the
dead
ability
watch
to
the
equip
others, bro.
shells of defeated tanks,
But like
quick
another
burst
time, though.
mobility, regenerating limbs, these are all
They don't
things
give a
insects
damn?
can do too. I will give credit where it's due though. Crustaceans do have an edge when it comes to that regen perk I mentioned. Insects can
Not gonna lie,
regenerate
these are not
every
bad.
time
That's
they
what I'm
molt,
saying.
but
These-
insects
this tier list
actually
is not
stop
bad.
molting once
I
they
might
reach
watch
their
more.
level cap and can no longer regenerate after that. This coincides with insects getting their wings, which is kind of paradoxical because it means their most fragile feature is also the only feature they can never regenerate. Crustaceans, by contrast, continue to molt and regenerate even after reaching their full potential, reinforcing the idea that crustaceans are a more
Is
beginner-friendly
that
build.
eggs?
Crustaceans are arthropods, one of the most diverse factions in the game. And while many are important parts of their ecosystems, many others, including the copepods mentioned in this video, can carry diseases. These
Buffaloes be
diseases
dying
can
first,
devastate
big boy.
communities that don't have the infrastructure to prevent them. And unfortunately, these same communities are often the ones least equipped to fight off these same diseases. It's the season of giving, and if you're anything like me, you want to help but worry that your donations could go much further and do a lot more good if
feel like
used
an
in
ad's
the most
coming.
efficient way. This is where today's sponsor GiveWell comes. They don't where malaria is present. The not match a match go to org to
I knew it. I felt I was hearing it. I was like, hold on. My YouTube senses was kicking in. I'm like, hold on. That sound like an ad finna come. Boom. I knew it, bro. Nigga could sense the ad. I'm telling you, bro. When you been on YouTube for a little bit, yeah, you know when the ad's coming, bro.